Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're calling in from. Ohio gozaimasu, guten tag. We really appreciate you participating today. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. I was actually on a phone call earlier today, a couple hours ago, with Cambodia, and we were talking about leadership and building capability and reaching the world. And one of the things I was thinking of was this meeting and how extraordinary our speakers are and what they've been able to accomplish. When I think all of us interact in the business world, there are people that we interact with that are busy and they're strategic and they do some really good work. But what we've assembled today are 6 women who are beyond that, actually making a difference in the world. And similar to what our goals are with Global Chamber, it's more than just talk. It's actually getting things to happen through connections, through actually doing things. And so what we have today are 6 extraordinary women who are leading and getting stuff done. And that's what we love about Global Chamber. What's what we love about our chapter in Bangladesh. And they've taken it to the next level by not only having some Bangladeshi speakers, but we've also got some other women leaders in our panel today who are going to talk about their experience, what they've been able to accomplish, and hopefully, and I would expect, that you'll get a lot from the conversation. So Maimun, thank you for allowing me to make the introduction, to kick things off, and I turn it back to you. Let's have a great conversation.
Thank you, Doug. And ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and good day to wherever you are in whichever part of the world you are. Today we are talking about women in global leadership. And what we chose for this event is just being a month away from the International Women's Day. And we actually wanted to go with that same theme, about women who chose to challenge. It's also interesting to note that it's been 50 years of Bangladesh's independence just last month, the 26th of March. And we have an extraordinary woman leader in our Prime Minister. And it's complemented by other extraordinary women leaders who have been the backbone of this country since 1971. I'm privileged to have a few of them with us today. And I'm also privileged to have my fellow moderator from New York City, our Executive Director, Susan Asad. Susan, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to introduce you to these amazing women leaders who will be talking about how they chose to challenge the norms of their respective working environments, and they demonstrated exemplary leadership of their respective areas of interest by showing professionalism, dynamism, and leadership. So first on our list is we have Barrister Tania Amir, the senior partner of Amir and Amir Law Associates. Secondly, joining us is Zara Mahbub, the country director and CEO of Qazi IT Center Limited. We then have joining us Lohana L.J. Chambers Lawson, the owner, CIO, and principal consultant at Tacit Growth Strategies, who is also a best-selling author. We also have Katie Keith, our executive director of the London chapter, who will be joining us very shortly. Rodwila Noshin is another fine addition to our group of extraordinary women, who is the founder and CEO at Config VR and Config Arbor. Finally, finishing off today's panel is Barrister Naomi Naz Chaudhary, who is the program manager at the Asian Pacific Research and Research Center for Women, or ARA. Doug, I think if you allow me, I think we can move on to our first speaker for today, and that is Barrister Tania Amir. So let me give you a little bit of a brief about this extraordinary individual. Our first speaker, Tania Amir, is a barrister at law from the United Kingdom, an advocate of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh, member of the Bar Council, and senior partner of the Amir and Amir Law Associates. She presently works in Dhaka as a legal expert covering a wide array of issues. She has served in an advisory capacity to the CEDAW to reduce discriminations against women. She is a strong voice of activism in issues such as human rights violations, women empowerment, child rights, the environment, among others. She's working closely with acid victim survivors and other NGOs in Bangladesh. Moreover, she is a legal advisor to several national, international, and transnational organizations. Acted as a consultant to projects based on good governance, to UN bodies, the WHO, and also served as an executive body member of SARC Law. Taniapa, welcome. We are very privileged to have you with us today.
Thank you, Mamun, and thank you for the initiative.
We're going to have a small conversation with you. Of course, throughout the course of this discussion, and we get to know more and learn more from you. So I think I'll start off with a few questions, which I think everyone who's joining us from not only Bangladesh, but from all over the world would be very intrigued to know. I'd like to ask you, being a prominent household name and a lawyer in your own right, what inspired you to be a lawyer and how you use this motivation to excel in the legal profession, both domestically and internationally, as I know you do practice not only in Bangladesh, but it spans from the UK to Singapore as well.
Mamun, you humble me with the introduction. Motivation, when you ask, is not one-fold, it's a many-fold. Sometimes, when we are fighting cases where it seems absolutely hopeless, we are turning from pillar to post, not getting any relief at all. And suddenly, you get a relief from, some unknown source. And that, again, restores your faith in humanity, that there is a way forward, if one is persevering with issues and cause and have that inner strength. And it's so important to keep that inner strength going. I draw a lot of my strength from, nature, from the people, from the survivors of the violations, and the cause itself. And I think one of the other motivation is really the cause and the birth of Bangladesh. And we are today speaking when, in a 10th of April is a very important day for Bangladesh, when Bangladesh came into existence. And our proclamation of independence, I think the values that is there is human dignity, equality, social justice. So these, the question of dignity, I think, is something that motivates me very much. We talk a lot about human rights, human security, but there's not enough discourse about dignity. And it's the common denominator of both human rights and human security. And given what we are experiencing globally, that is very, very important. So this question of dignity, and to have a dignitarian society where everyone's life and everyone's dignity, every living being's dignity. We live in a living planet. Planet is alive, and human beings in symbiosis with interdependency with other creatures in this planet, just as the countries and people, we are interconnected and interdependent through international trade, communication, as we are doing now. And evolving, these values are evolving. And if I can play a very humble role in upholding that dignity and have that connectivity, I think I draw a lot of inspiration, and I'm inspired by that. And finally, I think the resilience of the people of Bangladesh inspires me very much. Given the hardship and the the disasters where the world has written us off upon our birth, I think during the Nixon administration, we were written off as a bottomless basket. Today, Bangladesh has risen, and Bangladesh is in an international yardstick. We are doing well, both in the social indicators, and wherever Bangladesh has reached success in an international yardstick, the lioness's share behind that are the downtrodden women of Bangladesh, whether it's microcredit or it's in the garment sector, or whether it's the infant mortality rate that has gone down. So the women of Bangladesh, who are really the most disadvantaged, the poorest of the poor, where society hasn't given them very much, but the success of Bangladesh is really predicated upon the toil and the successes of these women. So they are not privileged women as we are, around the table in the panel today. So that's where I think there is an indebtedness that we need to give back something. And to date, although Bangladesh, we have in our constitution, which is the highest law of the republic, recognizes equality of all citizens, irrespective of your gender, color, place of birth, or religious persuasion. Nonetheless, we have inherited certain laws, which is pre-constitutional, whereby women of this country are not still treated as equal in the family realm. So the right of inheritance, the right of post-divorce maintenance. So in the family law area, we still have polygamous marriages, which is still permissible. Child marriage is restrained. It is not abolished as yet. So these are areas where the legal status of women is not at par and co-equal with the other citizens of the country. So the Constitution under Article 26 and Article 7 clearly says that any other law which is inconsistent with the Constitution is automatically void. So if we use the yardstick of the Constitution, these are not really laws. Because they are pre-constitutional, majority of them, and we are by convention still following them. So I would love to see an era where we have a universal, based on universal principles, a family code, whereby all citizens are treated equally, irrespective of their color, gender, or religious persuasion. So that's one vestige area of the law where we have really not been true to the constitutional principles and guarantees. So while we have attained sovereignty and de jure equality, but in this area, I think the equality has not been translated in the law yet. And of course, after the de jure equality, the real struggle is to have the de facto equality and dignity, which is of course the day-to-day struggle. But for that, one needs a framework. And in terms of the personal status of women, we are lacking that framework still. And you mentioned about CEDAW, which is the Convention of Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. I have acted as an advisor and advised the government to withdraw the reservations, and the major reservation to date has not been withdrawn. So I rested that for now.
That was very insightful and very important for us to know how this progression affects all of us being Bangladeshis. Taking that a little bit forward, I think there are a lot of young women who are watching this video, both on Zoom and on Facebook, and with our multiple collaborators in Chittagong, Dhaka, Warsaw, the different chapters, and Ice Business Times, a prominent magazine of the country. So if they do want to progress in their legal profession, what would be your tips in how they could do so? And by extension, how can a firm such as Amir & Amirs, which is one of the foremost prominent legal firms in Bangladesh, how can they aspire to be someone like that? What tips would you give?
Right. There's actually two questions. I'll take the latter first. Lex Mundi, which is a network of law firms across the globe, is very prestigious. And Amir & Amir, we were members of that network for. So there was a survey conducted across the law firms and the representation of women, how many women are there. And I'm so proud to say Amir & Amir is a law firm which really ranked top in terms of the number of women we have in our law firm, and the environment which is sort of very gender friendly, or in fact I would say gender neutral. So women are in the profession. When I started, there were, I started working in the UK as a barrister, and then I moved back to Bangladesh. And I started with the UK. At the time there weren't enough barristers in the UK. I think the profession here was very much aware that there weren't enough ethnic minorities and not enough women. So it was very much an upper class male white profession. So I learned very early in my career to, in a sense, flaunt the fact that I was different. Flaunt the fact that yes, I am, Bangladeshi. I am from South Asia, so I was not shy of who I was, and that we are here to stay. When I got back to Bangladesh, early in my career, I was driven, and I wasn't, I was a young lawyer, so I had to do my own research, my own drafting, file the cases myself. So. Putting in a lot of hours, a lot of hard work. And if people were uncomfortable because I was there, I had a kind of a tongue-in-cheek attitude. And the attitude was, well, this is my territory. This is my backyard. This is my home. If you're uncomfortable, there's the front door or there's the back door and you can leave. So, you use elbow space to make, that you're here to stay. And I didn't see myself any different than any other of my colleagues who started at the same time. At the same time, I must express my gratitude to my seniors, lawyers who took me. Some of them took me under their wings. In the profession, we have this a kind of a mentoring relationship. So. I remember, and I, with a lot of respect, Barrister Ishtiaq Ahmed. I worked with him for a while. My father, of course, now I'm with Amir and Amir, and the head of chamber is my father. And initially, it was, I wasn't sure how it would work with father and daughter working together, and having a professional relationship. So our head of chamber, he believes in delegation, and he sometimes throws you a bundle of cases and work, and throws you at the deep end and expects you to somehow learn to swim and keep your nose above the water. So I learned, and I was from very early on encouraged to go to the district courts, and run around and learn the ropes of the system. So I am very grateful that I've had wonderful mentors and guidance, which is very important in this profession, because you can pick up bad habits if you're not properly guided. And not properly mentored. So that's very important. With young women coming into the profession, and even young men, I would say that, it's, if you do hard work and you are committed, and if you have passion for what you're doing, the cream will rise. There's no way that you will not do well. The profession is very crowded in the bottom. So it's kind of like a pyramid, our profession. So there's so many people coming in, it's very crowded in the bottom. But, no one is persevering for excellence. And the value that I go by, chase after excellence. Do the best that you can. And, money and fame will chase after you. A lot of the young lawyers I find, very ambitious. They want to have it all very early, and chasing after, publicity, chasing after, this or that. And what happens is sometimes it's easy to get lost in this labyrinth. So it is so important, pursue excellence. And that ought to be, and again, I'm being opinionated here, and only because Mamoon, you've asked for my opinion. Usually, I don't like to solicit my opinions in this matter, but for young lawyers, and I'm saying it most affectionately, it's not supposed to be a sermon of any sort. So, young lawyers, my younger brothers and sisters, please don't take it that way. And I'm saying it from the bottom of my heart, because we do need very competent lawyers. And once you do the work and you're qualified and, you put your soul into it, you shall rise. It's not crowded at all at the top. There's so much room, only because most of the people get into bad practices, bad habits. They get swayed into sort of razzmatazz of it at times, and it's very easy to lose your bearing. So stay focused and do the best you can, and the cream shall rise. It's inevitable. No one can hold you down. And particularly for women, I would say that, once you're in the profession, you're a professional. There's no special privileges that because you're a woman, you should seek. And if someone is giving that special privilege, don't accept it. Because here we are co-equal, and it's so very important to get that message across. Because sometimes, when women are coming in, there are a lot of do-gooders who would like to help you, right? And in my profession, as lawyers, we don't need help. Just refuse that help, because we are here to help someone else. And this so-called giving protection or helping you, I do think it's, in a way, it's sort of a bit condescending, and it's sort of, covers or sort of couches the whole idea that, somehow you need a special help. And that would, in my early years, would irritate me quite a lot. But as I have grown, I have learned to be more diplomatic about that, and and handle it in a manner that is perhaps more appropriate. But I think in early years I would get irritated. When a woman comes in, and I hear, a lot of my colleagues, my friends, they say it a lot that there weren't very many women litigators at the time. And I remember one of the occasion, and I was a young lawyer myself, so I didn't have any junior carrying the books for me. So I was doing it all by myself, and my number was called, or about to be called. So I went up, and as you know, I was representing the petitioner. So the court's right-hand bench is where I'm supposed to sit in the front row. So I took all my books, and I was struggling. I was standing there, and this gentleman was there, and they were talking amongst themselves, and I just stood there. And after a while, they took pity upon me with so much heavy books, and they sort of looked at me and said, and they said it in Bengali. It's like, madam, sisters are sitting there, and they pointed at me to the back of the room, And I'm usually, a shy person or an introvert, and and I in a sense I got angry, but I've had about 5 years training here in the UK, and so I sort of learned to I grew a thick skin, I think, and I learned to address, or I don't know, something came over me, and it is something that is not in my character to talk like that, but I sort of looked at him in the eye, and I sort of made a joke, and I looked at him and I said, I have no objection sitting right next to you. Do you mind? And I think he just felt very embarrassed, and they turned red, and they realized what the situation was, and then they moved away. And I was a bit coy when I said that to him, and that's not usually me. So I don't know, I mean, when faced with situations like that, I think another survival or another persona takes over us for us to ride that wave, and so I remember that incident very well. But and in the early days, when we'd be sitting in the benches, out of deference or out of respect, perhaps there would be a gap, and they'd leave space for me. Today, I think I've just become a furniture in the court, So, they're saying, "Madam, come and sit," and they invite me to sit amongst them. And when they're joking, they don't see me as a female. They'll crack their jokes. So, Mamun, I don't know which was better. So, it's such crowded court, of course, now in a Zoom, so I can't tell you which is better. It's just different. That's all I can say. So it's
Thank
sort of
you
like
so much.
so I'm sort of seen as part of the furniture these days, so there's no special attention anymore.
Well, if it's furniture like that, I'm sure it's something that everybody will aspire to be. Thank you so much, Tanya. But that's a lot of anecdotes for us to take away from there. And we'll come back to you in the discussion round, of course, with a few more notes. I think we all have a lot more to learn from you, and especially all the women, and how to move up the career ladder. So let me, take your leave for a short while, and if I can move on to our next speaker, Zara Mahbub. So we have one extraordinary lady, who is a household name in the legal sector. Now we move on to another lady who has dabbed in many more. So Zara Mahbub is the country director and CEO of Kazi IT Central Limited. She has more than 25 years of experience in diversified fields that include banking, RMG, ready-made garments, software development, IT consulting, contract manufacturing, and even fashion modeling. Well, that's not a surprise. Zara Mahbub is an icon in that respect. Another icon that we can aspire to in Bangladesh for a lot of young women. She has an MBA from the Haas School of Business from the prestigious University of California, Berkeley. She's worked with many companies, starting from SERP Incorporated and Vision Manufacturing Incorporated. She joined Bragg Bank, one of the premier banks of Bangladesh, as a vice president and head of service quality for almost a decade, where she also served as the head of premium banking, head of customer experience, and finally as the head of communication and executive vice president. Currently, in addition to being the country director and CEO head of Apex DMIT Limited, she also serves the board of Toru, an innovation hub that facilitates the transformation of game-changing ideas into impactful solutions for social and economic inclusion. Zara is also the mother of 3 highly active children, as she says, and is also the CIO, the Chief Inspiration Officer for Naveed's Comedy Club, the first stand-up comedy club of Bangladesh. Zara, that's a lot of stuff. How did you dab in all of these? Why didn't you tell us?
Thank you so much, Maimun. First and foremost, thank you so much for including me in this wonderful gathering of new friends and, of course, old friends as well. And I'm really honored to be here. And a very good evening from Dhaka, Bangladesh. So it was just inspiring to listen to Tanya Appa. It's just always inspiring to listen to Tanya Appa. And if you ask me, how am I doing this? I guess I'm happily failing at a few, but prioritizing. So I know, and I see all my fellow female panelists here smile when I say that, because, I don't believe in the concept of being a superwoman or a super mom. We just do what we got to do. We prioritize. Sometimes things change on a daily basis. And as a mother, as a wife, as a partner, as a daughter, as a person who leads a business process outsourcing firm in Bangladesh for the US, we just got to get by and do what we got to do. So yeah, I think if that answers your question in short. Sorry, Maimun, I think you're on mute. That's apparently are you on mute?
I don't think I am anymore. Thank you.
Not anymore. That's the most famous phrase in the entire world today. I think you're on mute. Go ahead.
So I guess what I do have to ask you is, for someone who dabbed from everything from fashion modeling to becoming a banker to going to a business school, what were your experiences that occurred in your younger days that actually prepared you for this?
So yes, I think my family had a lot to do with this, the way they raised me. I come from a set of parents who are business oriented, but they come from a family where everybody has been in a proper profession. Like in the Asian community, we say you either have to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. But my father chose not to do that. My mom chose not to do that. My mom was, of course, more primarily a homemaker, but my dad was the only business person in his family. My eldest uncle, Tanya Papa knows, was once actually the Chief Justice of the country as well. So I come from a family where they were all professionals. And my father and my mom, they ensured that I grew up thinking that I can do whatever I put my heart into. So Tanyapa mentioned a phrase, be the best at what you want to do. So when I did fashion modeling, it was, of course, as I say, 30 years and 10 kilos ago, but it was when there weren't too many people doing it. And I said, you know what, we have to do this. I want to do this and I will do it. I used to play in the neighborhood football team. I used to play in the neighborhood cricket team. And those were things that girls were still not doing. And my parents said, you know what, sports cannot be limited to a gender. You have to just go out there and do this. So the few things that they actually influenced me with was you have to be honest and you have to give it your best shot. And luckily, when I got married and moved to the US, my partner, and ours was a semi-arranged, traditional semi-arranged marriage, um, which is very much in line with we used to be in line with our culture. He is an amazing partner. So he said, Dara, whatever you want to do, just go ahead and do it. So it was very similar. But you know what? It's just that I've been very lucky also that I've had parents, my surroundings, my partner, who've just been partners, basically. And they've been my partners in my journey. So I've been very blessed. It's not that it's been easy. I've chosen rather challenging fields, but I've been at it. So I work till 4 a.m. because I work with the US. So it's not easy on my children. It's not easy on the house. So I've tried to build my success circle around it because everybody realizes, if Zara does well, if Zara can do something, then, it's everybody's pride and glory. So they can be proud of it as well. So it's a joint and collective success, whatever we do. I guess, if that answers your question.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
Thank you.
I think, since we're on the topic of family, there's something I need to ask you because you're maintaining a work-life balance with the support of your husband. But what are the values that you try to instill in your own children as a working mom so that they not only succeed in their careers, but also as human beings?
Very similar to the values that were instilled in me as well as in my partner, Navid. And luckily they coincide. So it's do the best that you can, be honest and have fun. Because if you don't enjoy life, it's too short. And this is what we've seen over the past year during this pandemic. And if you don't have fun at what you're doing, it's just not worth doing anymore. Just move. And you can see my track record. I've moved. It's not that I moved from Breakbank to the business process outsourcing because I wasn't having fun. It was time for me to have fun in another field and get a new challenge. So I guess I was ready for a new challenge. But you just have to have fun and you have to enjoy it. Even if you're going up there and saying that, yes, I have no objection sitting next to you. We all have stories like that. So yes, Appa, you're inspirational, not just for us today. You've been inspirational for me since I was a teenager. So we have to find those ways in order to, just get a little kick out of our everydays, especially as women.
For sure. I mean, I can't just get enough of this conversation. I think, I'm still not married, but I think I do have a trajectory to aspire to right now. So thank you very much for that. I'll go on to a different question, and that is, I know that you studied abroad. This is a question for a lot of young people today. That you've been, you did your undergraduate in Bangladesh, and then you went for your master's abroad. What's the difference that you saw in both of these educational atmospheres, and how do you think it prepares you, in a better way, or what value does it add when you get that international exposure?
Okay, so now especially the world is flat thanks to technology, thanks to all of us being connected right now. So international exposure always, especially now with Gen Z and all of you out there, I see my kids and I learn from them every day. So international, there's no other substitute for international exposure. We have to pick up and run with whatever's being thrown at us on a daily basis. There's a new technology every second day, and I'm sure Rudmila can shed more light on this. But there's something new happening every day, and you snooze, you lose. So this is something. If you want to refer back to my MBA, I learned a lot there. Of course, Haas's program is very value driven. And when I came back, I got offers from quite a few institutions. But then I joined Bragg Bank, which is again a bank that does. That is affiliated with the GABV, Global Alliance for Banking on Values. So there are certain things that I could relate to, and it fit very well with the way I think and with my values about giving back to the community, doing something that is beneficial for the people, for the planet, for prosperity of all. So all those, I brought in, I think, a lot of international perspectives as to how we can actually translate those and do global things in a local way, locally adapted way. So always a proponent for international exposure, always supporting it. And now it's even easier. So why not?
For sure, why not? And finally, I mean, Zarbai, I just want to just ask you and Tani about loads of questions, but unfortunately there's something called the constraint of time that I have to adhere to. So I'll just ask you one last one for today in the prelims. And that is, you've worked in banking, you've worked in tech, you've worked in BPO, and of course RMG as well. For young women, who do want to join these sectors, what opportunities and challenges actually lie for them?
Okay, so challenges are unfortunately some preset challenges or predefined challenges that have been brought on to us for thousands of years, thanks to patriarchy and thanks to the way, one gender has been unfortunately marginalized, or and I'd rather put it the other way, that one gender has been stronger, let's put it that way. And we've accepted that. As another gender, we've accepted that. But today, I think women need to come out of that mindset that, you know what, I'm a woman, I don't know if I can do this. Don't ask that question. I mean, there shouldn't be no wastage of space in my cranium asking me that question that, you know what, I'm a woman, can I do it? No, you can do it. There is nothing that we women cannot do. We give birth to children, right? So I think there's everything that we can do. So any field you choose, but then it doesn't come easy. Yes, we do sometimes have to work 1.5 times more. And we have to stay a little longer, make a lot more sacrifices sometimes. But that's all a part of the growth. It's not that men don't sacrifice. Of course they do. Yes, the doubts concerning men are a little less probably. That also has to do with our confidence level. When somebody asks us, Zara, can you do this? I think, you know what? I don't know. I'm not sure. But if there's a male colleague, they'll be like, yeah, I'm getting it done. So the confidence level in a recent study says that, women gain a lot more confidence after 40. So from 25 to 40, we're struggling, we're growing. And these are research, this is data that's out there. So I encourage everybody to just grab the bull by the horns, and not just that, work at it. Nothing comes easy. I always say this, we don't get by with our red lipsticks. We have to work. We have to get it done. We have to deliver, because otherwise, and we have to work extra hard, because if we don't work extra hard, we're taking a bullet and we're making our gender look bad. So this next 100 years is when women have to work extra hard so that it's equal afterwards. And I hope it doesn't take 100 years, because I want my daughters to have an easier life than we did. So sorry, I'm talking a lot. I'm a little passionate about this subject. So get out there, grab the bull by the horns and work those hours and get your family on board, because if you earn more, they get a better life.
Thank you so much. And just so you know, as per Doug being here, he always tells us that Passion is something that we always value at the Global Chamber. So we salute you for that. Thank you very much for your dialogue. So we'll move on to the next segment. We had two amazing ladies from Bangladesh, and now we're gonna talk with two international successful leaders. And to do that, I'm gonna pass on to my colleague, Susan Sadi. Susan, take it away.
Thanks, Maymoon. You can hear me, right?
Perfect.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for inviting me to moderate, because I've been so inspired by your two speakers so far. And I feel like American women should take a lead from these Bangladeshi women. And just like really the fact that you're taking things a step deeper. Sometimes I turn on the TV and I feel like we're just falling behind over here. Anyway, so first I want to start with Loana LJ Chambers Lawson. Great to meet you. You and I've chatted just briefly on LinkedIn, so it's great to see you here. Loana, also known as LJ, as I said, is a certified project management professional and a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt who's been recently seen in some really wonderful places in the O for Magazine, Entrepreneur, Forbes, just to name a few. She's served as the president and board chair of both the Alamo Project Management Institute and is the, and San Antonio's, Texas's very first African-American digital archive and museum. Loana has proudly served as an advisor to the Global Chamber in San Antonio since 2019. In addition to being a university lecturer, founder, and investor in several businesses throughout the US, she's also a best-selling author. So she serves as also the owner, chief innovation officer, and principal consultant of Tacit Growth Strategies, an international business development, PMO, and premium authorized training partner of the Project Management Institute. So as you can see, just another woman doing 40,000 things. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing I want to ask you, LJ, thank you. I love your smile, by the way. It's very energizing. I drink a lot of coffee to energize myself. I think your smile could just energize me. So the first thing I want to ask you, I hope you take that the right way.
I love it. I love it.
I saw how you were responding enthusiastically to Barrister Amir's comments. And I wanted you actually just to, in your own way, say what resonated for you from your perspective, because I saw you smiling and shaking your head often.
You know, I'm glad you brought me back to that, Susan, because one of the things that I really admire about our Bangladeshi women that have spoken today is that we have to remember that we're not as far along as we think that we are. You know, and a lot of our women all throughout the world are struggling to just realize their potential because they're not being treated equally. And, you know, in the US, we talk about the lack of pay equity. We talk about the pay gap that exists between women entrepreneurs and men, you know, males. And, you know, when you hear from our leading women in other countries, it just reminds you the fact that we're not alone in this struggle, and that, you know, we do need to take lessons and take a page from our Bangladeshi women so that we can come out here and really make impacts that, you know, support across the board instead of just sort of, you know, in a very sort of tunnel vision sort of way. So that's really what it was that resonated most with me. I was like, you know, these are the types of stories that we need to hear more often. And these are the women that we need to be telling these stories, because this is just, it's a global struggle. It truly is a global struggle. So that's really what resonated with me. I was happy to hear a lot of what I've been hearing, you know, since I was a kid, but, you know, hearing it from Bangladeshi women, you know, that are just boss ladies, boss women, you know, it just takes it to another level.
Great. Thank you. Could you share a little bit about your work with Tacit Growth Strategies?
Yeah, so we're a global project management office. We are a government contractor as well. So we do a lot of contracting with the Department of Justice, the Department of Commerce here in the US, and we do a lot of local government contracts, you know, to take care of different school districts. We do a lot of training, professional development. We do some IT services for some of the school districts. And more recently, we became a preferred partner with the Project Management Institute. So we are licensed to provide project management exam prep courses to those who are interested in being project management practitioners. So that's something that we recently picked up, and we're looking to expand that piece of the office. So I gave myself a promotion to founder and CEO since I just hired a PMO director. So everything is moving quickly. What we've been doing over the past couple of years has been really investing in different businesses. You know, one of the things that I wanted to do when I started my business was really give other women the opportunity to put their business ideas out there to get funded, but then also, you know, have people that are strategically placed to support them along their journey. So I do a lot of mentoring with different businesses, and sometimes what I'll do too is give them some seed funding just to, you know, help them along the way. And so I've been doing a little bit more of that recently, especially with the pandemic. You saw that in San Antonio alone, we saw like half of all Black-owned businesses just closed. They went away. So I was trying to do my part to make sure that other people who look like me here, you know, knew that they were not alone and had some sort of support. So I did what I could to invest where I could. We had several women-owned businesses too that, because they're in the services, you know, in the professional services realm, you know, they struggle because they're not selling products, they're selling knowledge. And we all know that, you know, when the market is not a bullish market, you know, when it's a bear market, services is the one thing that people think that they can do without. You know, whatever it is that you offer, you know, they want to, you know, do it better than you. So a lot of our women were suffering here. So I wanted to step up in that way and, you know, be more involved, be more visible on the investment side of the house instead of just sort of doing business as usual, because the investment side of the house is also very male dominated. Let's be real. Anything that has to do with money is white male dominated. So I've been trying to break my way into that investing lane. And even if it's just a little something, you know, it doesn't have to be tens of thousands of dollars. It could just be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. That makes a difference in a lot of people's lives. So, you know, that's what we wanted to do. And that's what we've been able to accomplish in this little bit of time. So that's really what I've been trying to do, to pivot, to make sure that Tacit is not only living up to the social impact piece of the firm, but also making sure that we are, you know, protecting the ecosystem of other businesses that are supporting the communities and supporting the families here and all throughout the country, you know.
Do you want to share one particular story and how you overcame an obstacle in dealing with sort of the male-dominated, you know, financial banking industry?
Yes, that's an excellent question. I recently had a contract with the Department of Commerce. It was an export contract. And one of the biggest issues that I had in the export realm was that, you know, hey, you know, it's a woman, you know, I'm sure they were looking at me like, oh, she's Black. And, you know, she's not from this place, right? Like, this is not her culture. This is not, you know, she doesn't have anybody here, like family, that she can call on, or we don't have any other references, right? And what I did was for the export contract, I went and hired a guy, you know, he's a white male, and I had him working as a consultant on some of the clientele that I had picked up, but I just couldn't get him to switch. You know, I just couldn't get him to come on in and just trust me. And I hired this, you know, young white guy, and all of a sudden stuff just started flowing. You know, I was getting callbacks, I was getting email responses, like all types of things were happening. Things were moving, and it really was just because of him. And it just reminded me of just the bias in, you know, in all of us. You know, we all sort of suffer from prejudices, but you know, when you are in business for yourself and you're working and you're doing as was it Tanya, or was it, no, it wasn't Tanya, it was Zara. As Zara was saying, when the world is flat, you know, and you're trying to do business and you're trying to, you know, do things based on merit. Because my background, real fast, I started off really as a science teacher. You know, when I first came into myself, I came into myself because I was a teacher. And, you know, being a science teacher, you know, you're the smartest person on the campus. You know, you come to school every day. Nobody's telling you to dress up. You know, I went to work with, you know, tennis shoes on and a t-shirt and some jeans. You know, Everybody else had to dress up. But I was that person that always kind of was able to just sort of bend the rules, because I was always in a different field. I was always, you know, doing something different that was more based on intellect. than it was on anything else. You know what I mean? And so coming from that like science teacher background, you know, and I was teaching AP classes. I don't know if y'all know about advanced placement. So we have AP, we have International Baccalaureate, and I was International Baccalaureate in high school, but I taught AP when I had the chance to teach science. So I taught AP biology and environmental science, right? And so, you know, we were just like the whiz kids on campus. And so, you know, kind of coming from that background and then going into business, it's kind of the same sort of thing. You know, you're dealing with the same sort of like, okay, you're bending the rules. You know, you're kind of like the first one that looks like you to do this. You know, I've had a lot of those types of situations. And, you know, you get to a point where your whole purpose of being in a particular place at a particular time is because you want to be able to open the door for other people who look like you. You know, you want other people to know that they can accomplish this and that they can come forth and do even better than what you've done, right? Like you want people to know that and believe it. And so that's kind of been like my vocation as well, has been like, okay, you know, we're here, we're doing this, but beyond all of that, you know, we're leaving the door open so that other people can come in and do what we've done times 12. You know, that's really the vocation. So, yeah.
Well, you know, LJ, I could speak to you probably for another half an hour, but as Maymun said, in service of time, but I think you should ring up Kamala and tell her you got some more stories for her. Okay.
Vice President Kamala Harris?
Absolutely. Why not? Why not?
I've heard, yes.
Okay, I am looking for my next speaker, and LJ will bring you back in discussion soon. And I apologize for the sun, but I'm sitting in a sunny Starbucks out here, and the sun just keeps, and it's not me you need to see anyway, it's Katie. So Katie, can you unmute if you're not?
Hi,
So, hey, Katie, it's great to see you. You and I just had a chat last week, so it's great to see you again in Zoom Life. All right, so Katie is our executive director for our UK London chapter. As a thought leader with plus 20 years experience leading with institutional and retail banking space, she has extensive exposure to corporate leadership, business growth, and change management strategies within the finance sector. As well as leading the way for Global Chamber London, she operates her bespoke thought leader practice, working with entrepreneurs, leaders, and business owners around the globe as an executive coach and mentor. Katie is passionate about working closely with her global community and utilizing her business knowledge and skills. She's on a genuine mission to influence positive change in the global business community. So here we go, joining with our other wonderful leaders here. Katie, I have a few questions for you. So I'm just trying to keep someone on the 7-minute time frame that Maymun gave me. So first up question, when you're working with women in business as an executive coach and mentor, how have you helped them to overcome challenges throughout COVID and to stimulate positive change and move forward?
Yeah, thank you, Susan. That's a really good question. You know, listening to Tanya and Zara, it's about finding our voice. And I'm hearing that a lot today. It's about owning the voice, finding the voice to make the change happen. And what I have noticed a lot in the conversations I'm having with not just women in business here in the UK, but men as well, is around the evolution that's taken place in their role throughout COVID. We're doing more, we're being paid less, we're not able to have those normal luxuries in life that we were somewhat used to. So there's something being taken away from us. So it's almost like there's a feeling of stuckness and not being able to move forward. And there's certain emotions of resentfulness coming up. And I am having conversations, and the way I'm helping is to help them to accept what is and move forward with what they can. It's what we can control. And like you said, Zara, it's just we get on and we do it. And it's about just doing it and knowing that it is only a temporary situation. And I feel that there is just something about what Tanya said as well, finding that voice to step in and go, you know what, my role has evolved. You know, I'm working for 4 extra sectors. I'm doing an extra 20 hours a week. I think I should be remunerated for that. It's about giving them that voice. And sometimes we need to have these conversations with each other to know that we're not the only ones going through that. And so throughout lockdown, I've just been having lots of conversations with people, reaching out to people, staying connected. That interconnectedness has been really important because it's a very lonely place being at the top. It's a very lonely place running your own business. And sometimes you need that extra support to come in just to be the sounding board. So I would say to people who are out there and are feeling a little bit isolated, to reach out to your colleagues, join up on panels like this, you know, go to places where you can have these types of conversations, because I think they just add so much value to how you move forward and you make change happen. So it has really just been around the conversations and saying, it's okay, it's only temporary, but here's some tools to help you move forward.
Terrific. I love this, just doing it. I think we should approach the sports world and tell them we've got a new tagline for them. They need to add ing to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I just thought about that when I heard it. Okay. Do you have a particular approach for yourself or your clients when implementing change management strategies? Are there some steps or stages you employ in your approach?
Yeah, I think like some of us are just being thrown into change right now. So I think we just have to stop and reflect and be aware that so much is changing around us. And I think in terms of strategies, we can sit down and put roadmaps together as a business unit and work towards change management protocols within an organization. And there are boundaries and things like that that we need to work through. But as individuals working through change that is put upon us, we need to stop and reflect. And I would say there is a bit of a process around reflection, and I'm doing a lot of work on that in my master's at the moment about becoming a more reflective practitioner. And I think all of us could take a leaf from this and just stopping and asking yourself a few questions. What is changing for me? Or what do I need to change? Why am I changing this? You know, what is the purpose? When is it going to happen? What is it going to look like? How do I know when it's happened? And who's going to help me? And so just by stopping, reflecting and asking a few questions, it can be extremely powerful in managing change with yourself. Because one of the things I'm really helping people with is learning how to work better with themselves and in their businesses to manage these types of change. Because you could have a roadmap that is laid out and it's black and white, but if you're not ready, if the individuals aren't ready, then it won't go to plan. Mm-hmm. So it's about being fluid in how you approach it, but just taking time to reflect, stop and ask some questions.
Do you have any examples of pushback from clients when you ask them how I should implement this?
Yeah, when you start having to ask the big questions of yourself or even of the world, actually, when you start getting a group of people to ask those big questions, you go down a rabbit hole. And it is hard to answer those questions. I even find myself, because I've had to go through a lot of change in the last 12 months in the way I operate in my own business, the way my career has gone, I've had to do a lot of reflective work and it is very challenging. You know, it takes a couple of times to ask those questions. So it is about just being honest with yourself and answering the questions of why, what, when, how. Pushback. There's always a lot of pushback. I don't know what's next. I think it is just about embracing, and you know, the head, heart, gut situation. There's like 3 things going on for you all the time. It's about trusting in those, and whatever works, whatever's the strongest one, whatever one doesn't fail you. And I know all of us on here have gone, yeah, I trusted my gut on that and I was always right. Well, guess what? You've got to trust your gut and go with what's right for you.
Right. Do you have a story you could share with us from your work with any international businesses over 2020, where you were able to impact the management of a client or a process and create a positive change for them in this new environment?
Yeah, it's been very different not being able to work face to face. And I think a lot of businesses are experiencing challenges in transitional work within a business, whether they're taking on a new role. I have one story in particular I'll share about a person who's taking over the company. And I was working with them because they were actually inheriting a legacy of work, which they had all these new ideas they needed to bring in, but there was this legacy they had to work with and another person within the unit, the business unit still. So it was about helping to transition through the legacy, implement the ideas and move forward with that roadmap of change. but we weren't able to meet face to face. So we had to think about how are we going to manage these sessions together virtually, but still use creative tools to visualize how the business was going. So we were able to sort of pivot the way we worked together, and we used Zoom and we used whiteboards and we used Post-it notes on that, and we got creative and we worked through these roadmaps together. And in the end, what we looked at is it was really about breaking down those own personal limiting beliefs as an individual, because the roadmap was quite simple and straightforward. But once we realized it was that person's limiting beliefs around moving forward with the change, we were able to work on that process together and move forward. One of the biggest things I think businesses are facing right now is international recruitment and recruiting virtually and getting it right. I think a lot of companies do it well, and they're the global companies that have been doing it already. But then there are a lot of local companies here in the UK that now have to recruit virtually. And I think this company was one of them. And working through those barriers was quite an interesting opportunity. Because it was about trust. It was about working with people they've never met before and being able to onboard them. And what does that onboarding experience look like? How do we make these people feel valued? How do we bring them into the team? How do we integrate them into our culture? Has our culture now changed? So there's all these really amazing questions emerging as we had this discussion. And I think it's still ongoing work, but it has had a positive impact on how they've grown the company and are moving it forward now, by just embracing the tools.
Well, excellent. Katie, I also would love to continue, but I have to pass the baton over to Doug because we don't have enough time. We have all these other stories to hear, so we'll talk more soon. Thanks. Doug, it's yours.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it. Doug Brunke back here, and I've got two ladies that are both amazing that I'm really looking forward to hearing from. The first one is Rudmila Naushin, and she has had a tremendous background. I've learned this morning that she's actually in Silicon Valley, which I didn't appreciate until today. She is originally from Bangladesh, and she's been awarded and honored as one of the 50 most inspiring Bangladeshi Americans in the United States. Really interesting background, how she's maneuvered from electrical engineering to entrepreneurship to being a multiple serial entrepreneur and founder of the companies being Config VR and Config R Bot. And so I'd love to understand more, Rudmila, around how you've transferred that educational background into such a successful entrepreneurial and also social impact career. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much, Doug, for the wonderful introduction. And I'm so happy to be here today. And really, it's an honor for me to be a panelist among such influential people. So I'll just keep my answers really short, and no, because there's time constraint. So from early childhood, I always wanted to be an electrical engineer because I always wanted to create more, build stuff. So I've always been a technical and creative person, and electrical engineering actually helped me build stuff, and software engineering did help me program those. So my main intention is to solve real world problems with my educational background, my networking, my knowledge. I've been living in the States for almost 17 years now. I did my undergrad and master's both from San Jose State University. And I actually always had the plan, because I've seen, I come from an entrepreneur family. Both my parents are entrepreneurs. So I always I knew my plan from the very beginning, and I just followed my passion. I was very determined. I worked really hard. I almost work 16 hours a day, but I'm happy because I get a great feedback, because it's very challenging at Silicon Valley, as everyone knows, and not only in Silicon Valley, the whole world, everyone is having their own fight. So it's a very competitive market. You always need to be on the top of the game, and I read a lot, and I think that's the main key, because technologies change, and we have to be very adaptive. It's changing every day. New softwares are coming out, new hardwares are coming out, and both my companies, one of them is a VR company, which is augmented reality, virtual reality. We do renders, animation, and as Katie was mentioning, that they were trying to find a way where they can actually meet virtually. I wanted to suggest to her to try. There's a company called Spatial where they actually use the headset, and you can actually feel like they're in person and everything. So those kinds of softwares are already out there, and we need to create that awareness that, okay, these kinds of softwares do exist in the market. So that's one. And my other company, which is the robotics and AI company, we build different kinds of robots. We have tons. One of them are the educational robot, which I'm trying to promote in Bangladesh. I don't think it's the Zoom background. So these are for STEM education that I'm trying to, the reason I actually launched this in Bangladesh is because I want our Bangladesh students to start learning programming from at least from 5th or 6th grade, that like we do it here. So yeah, so that's pretty much it.
That's all.
Because
that's amazing, and I have an introduction for you. I'm really excited. I didn't understand the RBOT piece of it until now, and there's all sorts of, as you know, that's a big area in the valley. So I'm looking forward to connecting you up with some folks. How do you stay ahead? I mean, this is obviously, I mean, you're a woman, you're in a technology field that's dynamic and changing and even somewhat controversial, right? Because AI is like, oh, that's going to take all our jobs away. But yet, you know, really, it probably won't, right? In fact, quite the opposite. It seems to be doing the other thing. You talked about staying up to date and reading a lot. And so tell us a little bit about how you digest all of that information and then maneuver that into visions that are extraordinary for both of your companies.
So as Zara said, that given the situation, people actually learn how to get a way out of it and deal with it. So, and I completely agree with her, and I really love her. She's an amazing person. And I actually think there's tons of ways you can, first of all, I prioritize. I always make sure that I'm on schedule. I always plan my steps. So with advances in robotics and AI continuing to surprise us, there's not a single industry that has been untouched right now. And it is expected, so the expected value of robotics is 77 billion. And it's actually doubling its size in 2018. And AI is actually developing even faster. So it grew from 700 billion in 2017 to 1.2 trillion in 2018. And it is expected to be worth 3.2 trillion by 2022. So clearly both robotics and AI are really powerful techs. And given that information, just imagine the number of jobs that it can create. And in fact, there's a shortage of 500,000 AI specialists and like machine learning professionals. So coming back to your questions, like robots have been working in the manufacturing industries for years and centuries now. So what we need to do is collaborate robots and AI with our everyday daily life, which we already use, because AI, Netflix is deep machine learning, Spotify, we use Google, Alexa in the morning to tell us about the whole day's schedule, the weather and everything. So we are using AI every single day, and it's really big in our lives. So learning how to implement these into real lives and solving real world problems is my goal.
Amazing. So I'd like to just ask one or two more questions of you. And one of the things I'm really curious about is, listening to you, I don't get a sense that being a woman is holding you back. But undoubtedly, there are things in your daily life and during your career that, you know, have been probably would be shocking to many of us to observe. And so I'm curious, not to rehash those things, but more around how do you contrast the environment for women in leadership like yourself in Silicon Valley versus Bangladesh? And, you know, how would you compare the two? And clearly you're going to do whatever you need to do. Nobody, sorry, I'm getting a call. Clearly, you're going to be able to do whatever you need to be able to do to be successful. And so what advice do you have for other women leaders that are either in the US, in Silicon Valley or otherwise, in Bangladesh or anywhere else in the world?
So even during my undergrad, there were only 2 girls when we were doing when I did my undergrad in electrical engineering. So I see it's a very male dominated industry here, and not only in here, but globally. But I see a lot of women are coming in. I see more in the HR department or in the administrative. So I would really, really, really want to see much more women in the tech field, because and how we can do that. So concerted and creative new solutions are needed to enable the women's opportunities. And there's between 40 to 160 million people, women globally working right now, but most of them are not in the tech field. So what we need to inspire other women to come into this field. Otherwise, the inequality that we have between the tech jobs and the regular jobs, it's gonna go bigger, because we need more women in tech. Otherwise, already the existence market, in the market that's existed now, we already see less women in the field. So there are different so most women don't have like access to the same extent as men do to networking. They help them to develop their skills, achieve career progression, and transition into new jobs. But some companies are moving ahead and trying to bring on more women. So women need to be more engaged in tech. They need to be more skilled. They need to be more tech savvy. They need to learn more about science. And I think if you really want, there's nothing you can do. So we need to find our own interest in science, because the world is heading towards robotics, AI, machine learning, cybersecurity, blockchain. There's endless number of fields. And if you're a creative person, just try to create content. Creating content, like we build AR, VR solutions, and there you can be as creative as you want, because you can literally build anything that you feel like. So it's not only like cut box within, like you have to do science, but you can do artistic, creative stuff using technologies. So tech is a huge field. It's a very interesting field, and we would love to see a lot more women in it. And we need to make sure that we facilitated other ladies to like join this workforce. And we definitely need to gear up to compete with men, because I hardly see very few women in the tech world.
So get involved, get an education, get an engineering degree, be an entrepreneur, be involved with STEM. Those are all things that you would advise women and others in the US, Bangladesh, or anywhere.
Yes, and don't be scared to dream. Dream bold and be bold. And my visions are very high. Like I really want to build a group of industries in the Silicon Valley, which will be owned by a Bangladeshi American. So my main mission is to build robots locally in Bangladesh and sell it globally, to create a local brand name of robots in the whole world. And also when let's say like Elon Musk and Apple, they're both moving into manufacturing in India. So if India, in our neighboring countries can do it, Bangladesh can also do it. And that's where I come in. I'm trying to set up my manufacturing plant in Bangladesh very soon. And I would need a lot of male and female engineers for that. And I would love to see more women there, because definitely our country is represented, our prime minister is a woman, and I would like to see more women in the key roles. And I think we are headed in the right direction under her time right now.
Fantastic. Well, I really look forward to having a coffee or whatever we can do in person in Fremont or San Jose or wherever. Thank you so much for your information today. You're extraordinary. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much, Doug.
Yeah, our last speaker is Naomi Naz Chowdhury. She's the program manager at Arrow. And what Arrow is the Asian Pacific Resource and Research Center for Women. She has been a barrister as well, and she has been training on human rights since 2014. And so, Naomi, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives today, and we look forward to hearing more. I think you have some information that you'd like to share first. Is that correct?
I am actually sharing a presentation.
Oh,
sorry.
Naomi. Okay, please go ahead.
I'll just wait. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction as well. Hello, everyone. I'm very thankful to be part of this exciting event organized by Global Chambers and Dhaka chapter. And I am really humbled to be in the midst of such a distinguished panel this evening. As Doug has mentioned, my name is Naminas Chaudhary, and I'm currently based in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur. And I work for a regional NGO called ARROW, which is short for the Asia Pacific Resource and Research Center for Women. ARROW is a Asia Pacific focused regional NGO, as I said, and we work on the rights of women and girls across the Asia Pacific, defending their rights and needs, particularly in the area of health and sexuality. And we have a reach in a total of around 188 countries in the region, and this also includes Bangladesh. And we currently hold a consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the UN as well. But regardless of my official designation, I've always seen my role in the past decade as a human rights activist, a researcher, and as an international development practitioner. And my work has been focused in this Asia Pacific region. So in this slide, I just wanted to share a bit more about the scope of my work. And this is just a fragment of what women in the NGO sector is currently doing. As you understand, I work in the human rights sector, and in broad strokes, personally, I have been working choosing to challenge gender inequality, structural and systemic barriers to access to justice rights, and sexual and reproductive health and rights, which cross-cuts many issues in every stages of a human being's development. Previous panelists have talked about, the importance about the right to dignity, the right to freedom, integrity. And this is ever more so important when we talk about and have this conversation about women and girls, because we still belong to the marginalized category. And while all of this here, we represent the empowerment or leadership in some form or the other, this is not the case for women and girls in this region. And when you look at statistics from the World Bank, I'm sure you're all aware of this as well. It shows that how women and girls in the Asia Pacific are still lagging behind, not just in education, but also in employment. We are doing great. We are in leadership positions in most sectors, but then again, most of us, a majority of us, are still lagging behind. And most women and girls, especially in the Asia Pacific region, including Bangladesh, they're contributing significantly, a significant amount of hours in unpaid care work. And their contributions are invisible. And it's invisible in the way we measure GDP or economic growth. And the same applies to us who are deemed to be in empowered positions, because we too, when we're trying to balance work life, we are also contributing a lot of hours, a lot of efforts towards doing unpaid care work, which is actually unaccounted for. Next slide, please. So this is a quote from one of my favorite feminist writers. But before coming to that, I also wanted to say that apart from working for women and girls, my work also involves challenging issues affecting rights of young people, minorities, persons with disabilities, and women workers. And here Arundhati Roy basically says that there's really no such thing as the voiceless. There are only the deliberately silenced or the preferably unheard. Next slide, please. So my colleagues and I, we actually work to challenge the reasons or the factors that silences a person. And some of these reasons are embedded in systemic barriers stemming from inequality and discrimination, from gender-based issues like abuse, harassment, sexual and gender-based violence, from harmful practices such as child marriage, female genital mutilation or circumcision, and also the social and economic empowerment-related barriers related to poverty, hunger, access to information and essential services, climate change, migration, employment. The list is really long. And the way we try to bring change or choose to challenge is through advocacy. And the first thing that makes the top of the list is advocacy for legal reform, because most of these countries in the Asia Pacific, including Bangladesh, we have sort of like inherited like colonial laws, which are progressive. And these regressive laws creates a lot of barriers. And also we advocate for policy changes, because sometimes policies create problems when they're not inclusive. And then you have awareness raising and knowledge sharing, because knowledge is power. And when you have the knowledge, you're more likely to act and bring about a positive change. So we work and invest a lot of time in that. And also strengthen communities, because communities are the biggest support system of any society. And lastly, research. And this is to inform ourselves as activists as to what sort of strategies we need to undertake to address the human rights issues at hand. And all of these, next slide, please. And all of these are ways that are helping us to challenge the wrongs in society, bringing to the fore the voice of those from the grassroots level to regional and international spaces, including at the UN. And I have been fortunate enough to be part of some of these spaces and processes that make up the UN human rights mechanisms and the Sustainable Development Goals realization processes. And this is both for Bangladesh and for countries in the Asia Pacific. And I just added some pictures here to show you some time spent with my mentors and colleagues from Bangladesh and beyond. A few words about myself. I grew up in a more or less a privileged setting, which allowed me to have my early years education in Sweden. And up until my master's degree, I have had the opportunity to study under the international curricula. But I think I exhausted my parents' financial capacity when I chose to have this ambition to get trained as a barrister. My parents simply didn't have the financial means to support me any further with my studies, but I wanted to train as a barrister. And I spent years in the corporate sector. I used to work for Lloyd's TSB in the UK. That was my last position before I was called to the bar. And all of this to fund, self-fund my choice to train as a barrister. I was eventually called to the bar in 2012, and I returned to Bangladesh. And like most, I joined a renowned corporate firm. In my case, this was Syed Ishtiaq Ahmed and Associates in Bangladesh. And I had fantastic seniors, colleagues, and a very supportive environment. But my passion in human rights made me look for opportunities and scope that would help me build a career in my chosen line of work. And basically, I then left the chambers, and my seniors were very supportive of my decision, because I then went on to work with Barrister Sarah Hussain, who works in human rights in Bangladesh and also abroad. And I joined her legal aid organization that she heads, Bangladesh Legal Aid and Services Trust. And I started, my first assignment was related to a Rana Plaza claims administration related work, and I never looked back since then. It has been a tough journey so far, and I faced a lot of struggles and questions regarding my choice of career, because it's not so common for someone to get trained as a lawyer and start working in human rights the way I did back then. And I still face questions. I still continue to face them, that why aren't you practicing? And why are you working in the NGO sector? Why did you move on to a regional NGO? But I didn't let any of these questions stop me. I wanted to learn from ground up, from the grassroots level. And my determination and passion for human rights, I want it to be a firm foundation in my career progression to develop myself as an international human rights lawyer eventually. And when we talk about human rights violations, it doesn't have any time, right? It happens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And us activists, we work around the clock. And being a mother of a young child, persevering in this line of work was difficult, and it required sacrifices from me, my 5-year-old child, my husband, and my family. And it required extreme peer support from friends and colleagues. And there have been moments when it's been very difficult for me, and I have questioned whether I can go on any further when I was faced with opposition, because there are also activists who have different ways of approach. There are opposition from states as well. When you work in the rights-based sector, you tend to get a lot of threats in your work. So you have to sort of like overcome all of this. And this is not just about me, I'm talking about my colleagues as well. And this is like a reality for all of us who are working in the NGO sector. And in those trying times, it is important to stay strong, not just for yourself, but for others as well. And I have seen the same thing in my colleagues that I have worked with so far. They have the same strength and capability to endure. And I feel these are essential qualities that enables one to choose to challenge, not just in the NGO sector, but in any sector regardless. Next slide, please. So this slide, I mean, it features a photo that I took when I went to the African American Museum in Washington. It really inspired me, and it talks about rights movement and women's roles in various movements. This one particular is regarding the civil rights movement. But when I think about movements and struggles in general, I think about, the struggle for voting rights historically. Of course, the civil rights movements. I think about our own language movement that happened in Bangladesh, our own fight for independence, and also the recent movements that have happened, the hashtag #MeToo, the Black Lives Matter, and the role of women in each of those struggles. And I take a lot of inspiration, and I feel that there is a lot of lesson to be taken from the stories of resilience of each individuals who are part of those drive for change. So the key for us is to listen. Next slide, please. And collectively, it's important that we all adopt a rights-based approach, regardless of what sector we work in. Something that's embedded in equity, equality, diversity, and justice, because every person is different. And we have to realize those differences and accommodate those differences so that, there is a space for everybody to thrive. Next slide, please. And on an individual level, I felt like when we're having this conversation about choose to challenge, it is important to continue to keep on sowing the seed for change, because you want to better the future as you move along, and you want to better the future with you. It's important to grow through learning. It's very important to grow through learning and understand how things are around you and where the future is headed towards, and learn from the past as well. And also networking and staying connected, because it's really helpful to stay connected to powerful minds, to positive people, positive individuals, to keep up that positivity and give you food for thought to bring about these kind of changes, progressive changes, that is. And I also wanted to mention here that sometimes, depending on where you're standing in life, it may be hard to challenge things around you, but it is okay to sometimes stand still, take in, reflect, and contemplate. I mean, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't take any actions whatsoever, but it also means, and this brings me to my last slide. The next slide, please. Yes, that it's okay to fail sometimes. And here I quote from another of my inspiration, the aviator Amelia Earhart, that women like men should try to do the impossible. Because even if we fail as women, that failure sets the standard of what ought to be challenged for the next person who stands in line. And with that, I thank you all for your patience, for listening to me and inviting me to this panel. Thank you.
No patience required. That was fascinating. Really appreciate it, Barrister. Really interesting. And thank you for coming back to really the topic of choose to challenge. It's something for men and women both to think about on a daily basis. There's so much to challenge. There's so much out there. One of my favorite points is around see something, say something. And if that was the case, we'd be saying something every minute of the day, right? There's so much out there. So we have to be careful on how we support. But I do want to kind of end this section and turn it over to Maimun to close down the program, because I know you have a presentation you want to make. I do want to say that for men in the audience, we need to be allies. We need to be supportive. As you've seen, these are 6 extraordinary women that they're going to get it done, right? They're going to make the world change. They've already impacted change in tremendous ways, but they can make even greater change if we are allies and support their success. And so I encourage everyone, men and women, to see something, say something, choose to challenge when things are off kilter. it's fine to be flexible and adaptive, but sometimes you just got to push back and make things happen, similar to the, hey, I don't mind sitting next to you at the dinner table. Those are awesome examples of what women have to go through every day. And I guess not really awesome example, more of how to respond to the things that you have to put up with. We shouldn't have to do that. And so let's keep making progress in the world. So thank you so much for sharing all of those things right down the middle in terms of not just on the business side, but changing the world in a positive way. And with that, I'd like to turn it back to Maimun to close down the program. Maimun, thank you for pulling together such an amazing program.
Thank you so much, Doug, and thank you, Susan, for assisting me in this process. I mean, we are so lucky to have such a diverse panel of individuals. I really would have wanted to go into the discussion, but time's the killer, I guess, today, right? We would love to know more. We're really thankful for all of you to come here. We'd like to thank our collaborators, ICE Business Times, who've also, is our media partner. I'd just like to let all the panelists know today that they will be doing a feature on every one of you. So if you can send us some high quality photo of yours, it will be included in the next issue. And you're supposed to get the cover for the next month's digital issue as well. So that's Bangladesh's #1 business magazine featuring us. So thank you again, ICE Business Times. The 3 Bangladeshi chapters of Global Chamber teamed up. Global Chamber Dhaka, Chittagong, and Parasal on this. So to all the executive directors and global advisors, Rahan Bhai, as I can see, is here. I think it shows the unity we have between us, and of course with MCFG. So we have a very short ceremony. Thank you all for having the patience to sit through 1.5 hours. I know it's difficult at this time. Taniapa, thank you for coming all the way from UK to join along with Katie. Zarapa, I know you're not feeling too well, but that's professional. That is how women are choosing to challenge. They're not letting, the pandemic, they're not letting distance, bar their way and to their commitments. And we are inspired by you all. Naomi Aparudmilava, thank you so much. From the USA to Malaysia, this is how global representation, today's presentation was. So Zara, if you can pull the presentation up, we'd like to give you some certificates online, and we will mail this to you later on. Thank you. So firstly, to our excellent first speaker, Barrister Tania Amir. Could we take a photo with Taniapa? Cesar, are you there to take the photo?
Yeah, I'm here trying to see how yeah, I'm gonna take the picture now.
Excellent, Taniapa. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Maimun, and thank you for introducing me to such lovely panelists and the organizers, and to Rudmila. And if I can do anything to help you to set up your robotic plants in Bangladesh, we often help foreign investors coming in, setting up their businesses. Let me know. And that goes to each and every one of you. If there's anything I can do to support your initiatives. And I feel so proud of everyone and their achievements here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanya. I think that means a lot, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. That's the whole, I think, ethos of Global Chamber, to bring everyone together.
Thank you.
Let's move on to our next panelist of today, ever smiling, brilliant Sarapa, who told us a lot of important notes about family values and what's important. So Zarapa, for that and every other small note that you did have for us to go forward, for every young woman watching out there, this is a small token of appreciation from us to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll then move on to our third panelist, Luana Chambers-Lawson, someone I've been interacting with exclusively, I think from January. I've been bugging her a lot and she's been supporting me a lot. LJ, you're amazing. Keep on doing the amazing things you do. Keep connecting the internet international community. And we hope to see you, be featured in Bangladesh in next month's IBT. Right, we got the picture? Great. Moving on. So it's very interesting that I'll be, presenting this. Just like to do a little bit of marketing. Day after tomorrow, we have a London Dhaka Global Chamber meetup. So businesses between Bangladesh and the United Kingdom. It's a free of charge event, and you can just come in, pop in. It's on the Global Chamber website. If you're looking for investments, if you're looking for business partners, Katie's going to be my co-host. Katie, if you'd like to say anything, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Maimon. It's been an absolute delight to be here today. I'm just filled with admiration. I can't explain to you how amazing it's been. And if you want to join us this week, we'd look forward to welcoming you along to learn a little bit more about what we're doing at the Global Chamber. Thank you.
Excellent. Amazing. So I think we were wowed by that small bot, and that's where we come to Radula Nausheen. I'm really looking forward to, when I do get to have kids, my kids will be playing with your bots, or they'll be learning coding with the curriculum that you'll be assisting to set.
I really tried hard to cover as much as I could, but I think because of the time, I couldn't really go in depth. But I just wanted to add one point that I think it's really vital that women participates in the creation of technology, because not only because it diverse teams, but it has the distinct benefits. And I think there should be a lot of women in the tech world, and their contribution can help tackle concerns about inbuilt gender bias in AI algorithms. So it is very necessary for women to come in forward in the tech world. And it was lovely meeting all the other panelists. And thank you, Tanya. I would definitely connect with you and would love to collaborate. And thanks to each and every one of you. It was wonderful listening to everyone today. And I learned a lot, and there's no limit to learning. And let's look for a better world with women in tech. Thank you.
Thanks so much. We got the picture, I hope. Cesar, can we move on to the next certificate of recognition? And that is to Barrister Naomi Naz Chaudhry, sorry. Naomi Appa, thank you very much for finishing off with our theme. I don't think there's a better way we could have done it, and talking about the rights of women. And we are very pleased that you joined us all the way from Malaysia. I know it's pretty late right now. I think it's almost around 11:30 at night. Yes. So thank you to all the panelists today, who joined, irrespective of the time zone, whether it was really early in San Jose or whether it was really late in Southeast Asia. And finally, I think, Doug and me are the regulars when we do our event, but Susan opted in to come and, be a co-moderator, really want to be involved with our event. So Susan, thank you for your amazing moderation today. So we'd like to give you a certificate of recognition too. Cesar?
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you very much.
All right, we got the picture with Susan.
I don't know where I am. I can't even see myself, but Cesar knows I always close my eyes, but just go ahead. Thank you so much, Doug and Maimon. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, Maimon, for putting it together. You're amazing. And then you mentioned the meetup is on Thursday, right? With London?
Yes.
Fantastic. Any closing remarks you'd like to make?
Well, we love everyone that's here to get involved more with the Global Chamber. In Bangladesh, even though we have different chapters, we act as one Bangladesh. And we'd love to help you out and see how we can collaborate. So thank you, everyone. Have a great time, and, Assalamu alaikum.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. We have a meeting.
Thank you.
Going on right now between Tel Aviv and Nairobi, I think. So if you still have some energy and you've got the right time, jump into that meetup right now, Tel Aviv, Nairobi. And ladies, you are amazing. Keep up the good work and reach out along the way. Keep us posted on your accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Doug.
Take care.
I'm sure we'll connect again. Thanks. Bye.